Alright, hello and welcome back to another episode of MC Airsoft. My name is Mark, and today we're going to be talking about the Well R2. It's a Wells version of the CZ or VZ61. It's a originally Czechoslovakian made, I believe, small caliber little machine pistol. Okay, Not Forgotten Weapons, he did a video on it. Other people have talked about the history of it. I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about the Airsoft one. Now, to get this out of the way, why did I buy it? First of all, there are other VZ61s on the market. Why did I buy this one? First and foremost, it was $91 at the time I purchased it, which was a week or two ago. Price may vary. It'll probably go up in price, like all Airsoft does, right? I bought it because, one, I like tinkering, okay? Two, I've wanted it since the late 2000s. When I first saw it, because I thought it was just super cool that it was this tiny little thing. It's also probably going to end up being my pistol for use with the RPK up here and also the SSG-10. It'll probably end up being a pistol that I use for it, just to have a little bit more firepower within those minimum engagement distances. In addition to that, if I go to a CQB field, it's not unviable in CQB distances, right? Where I play, generally, it's not going to be a good option. Can you close the distance and get people with it? Sure. But is it a good option? Not really. As a primary, is it a decent option for a secondary? Yeah. Is it a perhaps decent option as a primary on a CQB field if you upgrade it? Yes. I would say so. So a couple things about it. One, ignore the fact that I've 3D printed some parts, added a foregrip to it internally. It is all standard. Full disclosure, I bought it with my own money. I'm not sponsored. I'm a small channel and no one cares about me. I did 3D print charging handle just for looks. It does expose the hop up, but and it's a little bit easier with these style or any kind of extended charging handle to access the hop up, which is a rotary style hop up in there. It's pretty good. It did come with a metal barrel. I replaced it with a 3D printed one so I could have threading and a flash suppressor. Eventually, I'm going to be working on this. And it getting an extended barrel, so I'll probably swap out the flash suppressor for a suppressor. Okay. There's a lot of upgrades you can do to this, which is cool. That's one of the main reasons I actually ended up buying it. But with the hop-up set for .2s, because this is an AEP, I was getting about 190 to 210 FPS, which is a little crazy to most people, right? Because, something like this, which is my Mark 18, that shoots about 370, 380. This up here, my Mark 12 shoots 470. My bolt action shoots over 600 or about 600, somewhere around that. Even this, which is a internally not upgraded SEMA AK, shoots about 330 with the hop-up set. So this shooting 190 to 210 is absurd. It just floats the BBs out there. With .2s, it's not bad, because you also got to remember, which that is something to talk about, is AP FPS, right? Everyone, a lot of newer players getting into the sport will look at FPS and think higher number is better. Okay, it's not always true. Even the more experienced players, they think, oh, well, it's too low of an FPS to be viable. Arguably, no, that's not entirely true. Range is primarily dictated by the hop-up, right? Not really by FPS. FPS will dictate how heavy of BBs you can use, but it doesn't dictate the actual range, although weight of BB does affect range. With .2s, I've been told .25s are a better option, but I don't have any on hand. I'm probably going to be picking up some .23s, .25s as I upgrade this to test it out. The longer barrel will increase FPS slightly as well without having to change the spring. So I'm going to be testing out some .23s, .25s, see what kind of range I can get out of it. With .2s, I'm getting about 150 feet, although it's slow when it gets out there, right? It's by the time it gets out past 100 feet, you're probably looking at my best guess is 50 to 75 feet per second. It is slow. So you're probably in the double digits rather than triple digits. But that's not really what it's designed for. Now, for those of you playing at home, the battery is over here, no magazine. Okay, couldn't even shoot if I wanted it to. But it's slow FPS, and is that a problem? If I planned on using this as a primary outdoors, yes. Now I probably will use it as a primary outdoors for the laughs, right? But it's not going to be my primary, if that makes sense, right? I'm not going to show up to a game day, grab this out of the bag for my outdoor field, and that's all that I brought. That's all that I plan on using. There might be a day or two that I do that just so it forces me out of my normal play style, which is more of a sit back, lob shots kind of play style. But my main airsoft gun is still probably going to be the Mark 18. I'm going to also be using the bolt action. I'm going to be using the RPK. I have a hard time recommending this to anyone, maybe kids, right? It's a decent little kid's gun. You can, because they're fast and sneaky, right? But for most people getting into things, unless you're playing CQB, I can't recommend this if it's your only gun, right? If you got a Lancer Tactical, or you got a, the PRC 15, which I still maintain is the best beginner primary. If you've got your primary weapon and you want a secondary, or you want variety, you want a little SMG to play speed boy and run around shooting super quick. Okay, yep, makes sense. I would recommend it for that. Because of the upgradability, maybe even for Speedsoft. I have heard of people using I don't know if it's this in particular, the AEP version, or if it is the gas blowback version, but I've heard of people running VZ61s in Speedsoft, and that makes sense because that's kind of the category it makes sense to me, because yeah, it's an AEP with a really short range compared to something like a full-size AEG, maybe even a high kappa if you've upgraded the high kappa. And it has a really slow FPS, so you're just kind of lobbing shots out there. But if you're running around super close range, FPS doesn't matter. As long as it has enough FPS to get out of your barrel and maybe cross a garage-sized room, or a normal room or a short hallway, as long as you have enough FPS to cover that distance, it doesn't really matter. I've seen people with the the mini AEGs with the hopper fed. It's a fake scope that feeds BBs in. I've seen people get kills with those. So to say that this is unusable would be wrong, right? You're just gonna have to work with it. One, you'll probably want to upgrade it, at least a battery, because battery sucks. We'll get to that. It's not as bad as some people make it out to be, but it sucks. But you can put a LiPo in here. I'm going to be doing some testing. I have my buffer tube size. It's a 7.4 1450 LiPo that I'll probably be rigging this up to fit that because it's what I have. And if it fits, then great. So, yeah, some other things. Does have metal folding stock that I keep playing with. It's not incredibly sturdy, but it gets the job done. One thing I will say about that is I did correct the angle, which all I did was bend it. I've seen people complaining about the stock angle because it does arrive out of the package straight out, something like that. People complain about the stock angle because if you're down like this, it's a really weird angle and you kind of have to crane your neck into it. Whereas the original VZ had a stock angle more like this, and that allows you to get a firing position, to get relatively comfortable behind the sights, and look down the sights, and it's still connected to your shoulder, right? Okay, so I did correct that, but that's anyone can do that. Just extend the stock. All I did was extend the stock and bend it. You might have to place a pistol grip on something and bend it. Go slow so you don't overbend it. If you break it, not my fault. But it still folds just fine, which you can also replace it with 3D printed parts that adapt it for M4 buffer tubes or folding rail stocks and all that. I like the look of this stock, so I left it. Not a big deal to me. In the future, I might be replacing the sights or figuring out a way to mount a small red dot. Not really a big priority for me right now because I got it as a funsy little gun. It did come with a rail. That's awesome. Through a Knight's Armament, an actual Knight's Armament broomstick on there. Because one, it has the old school kind of feel and kind of look to it. And two, it's what I had laying around that I wasn't going to use for anything. And it, it's polymer. It matches the polymer of the grip and whatever. Other than that, haven't really changed anything. Barrel, like I said, the internal barrel does go up to about there. It's a short inner barrel. One thing I will say, coming out of the package, it did not work. The everything cycled just fine. All I had to do was, but it didn't actually launch BBs. All I had to do was go in and turn the nozzle so it locked into the tappet plate. It's fairly easy to fix, but do want to be clear about that. You will, if that happens to you, you take out 2 grub screws or set screws or whatever you want to call them. Pop out a retaining pin right here. Slide the barrel off the end, and then you're good. You can fiddle with the nozzle there. So not a big fix, but I did want to be clear that it did not function correctly out of the box. Other than that, haven't had any real issues with it. And like I said, I'm shooting about 150 feet, maybe a little bit further if I angled up. I'm talking flat with the hop-up set. I'm shooting about 150 feet. So that's good to me. That's what I wanted it for. It's not a sniper, right? It's never going to shoot 300 feet onto a man-sized target, right? It's not. But it does what I needed it to do. It is small, it's relatively lightweight. If you have a full metal high kappa, it's probably about the same weight. And we'll get into magazines in a second that it came with, and that I printed one. So battery, again, no BBs, pointing in safe directions. There's no one else in the garage. Battery install, fairly easy. The battery does retain even if you don't have the floor plate on, which is handy. The little floor plate here has one side that's spring loaded, one side that's not. Just go ahead and take the side that's not, and there's this little foam padding that cushions the battery. So the foam padding lines up with the battery. You slide in the non-spring loaded part first, no big deal, just snaps right in. So one thing that's weird that might trip up some players is center is safe, forward is full auto, back is semi-auto. I am left-handed for rifles, so I'll primarily probably be shooting this left-handed unless I'm using it as a pistol. So for left-handed shooters, I find it easiest to work it with the knuckle, right? Same as I do with an AR. I turn it backwards with a curl of the index finger. So if I'm on safe, I want to go to semi, I can curl my finger, boom, done. If I'm on safe and I want to go to full auto, I can slide forward and then back onto the trigger, okay? That's how I do it. You do it your way. For right-handed shooters, you can work it. It's a little harder to pull it backwards, but you can work it with your thumb. You might want to use your offhand. Personally, when I'm shooting right-handed, that's how I would probably work it. But all in all, not a bad setup. It's just a little bit of different muscle memory. So fire rate, obviously got semi-auto. We'll do that first. It's honestly a better trigger response than I was expecting. So a little bit of take up, you hit a wall, and if you try and spam the trigger, it might have issues. I'm gonna see if I can replace this with a micro switch trigger, but for now it's fine. Now, for full auto, it isn't a fresh charge. It's a mostly charged battery. I did my chrono testing on this charge, and I've been shooting with it, adjusting hop up with it. So you figure this is about how the battery will be after probably one full drum of BBs, right? So, figure halfway through your day kind of thing. So this is fire rate on full auto. Okay. Honestly, it's pretty good. It's better than I was expecting. It's about, according to my chronograph, it tops out about 9 rounds a second. So that's pretty good, about 540 rounds per minute. Can't really complain with that for such a small package. Now, let's talk about magazines. This is the drum that it came with, which is, again, this is the well version. So not bad. Also as a left-handed shooter, having the magazine release right there where my index finger rests is awesome. As a right-handed shooter, you can come across, hit it with your thumb, and grab the magazine. I like being a left-handed shooter with this. Funny enough, a lot of the Eastern European guns are, in my opinion, set up for left-handers. If you have the gas blowback version, you might want to watch where you're gripping because the charging handle, I believe, reciprocates. It does on the real one. Pretty sure it does on the Airsoft one, on the Airsoft gas ones too. So it came with a drum. Drum is plastic, okay? It does feel cheap, but it came with the gun, so I can't really complain. Folding down the little door in the back, you can fill your BBs, you just pour them in there, okay? Come around to the front, turn that, which is another issue with the foregrip. If I have the foregrip in the way, I have to come in between and kind of do a weird motion. Now I can, let's see if I can do this from the front, just work one side. But you get a couple good bursts out of it when it's fully wound, right? You wind until it double clicks, essentially. It's not loaded right now, so I can't really show that. See, not loaded. But it's advertised as holding anywhere from 270 to 370, depending on where you're reading it. You're gonna get at least 200 rounds out of it, is my guesstimate. Probably closer to 3 for $12 per magazine, which is what it was last time I saw it on Airsoft GI. I did purchase this from Airsoft GI, by the way. For $12 magazine, if you can run drums, great option. I might be 15 bucks, but the other one it came with is this mid cap. Now, according to Airsoft GI's website, these mid caps, which is nice that it came with a mid cap, it's not a high cap. The high caps hold supposedly 80, the mid caps supposedly hold 50, this one holds 39. So keep that in mind, that if you want to buy your own magazines from Well that are guaranteed to work with this, and it does feed. What's nice too is it has a follower that comes all the way up and pushes the last BBs in. Okay, that's cool. That's something normally only high-end guns for AHEs do, and it's nice that it was included because you have so few shots in this anyway. Problem is it holds 39 though, right? So probably won't be buying any of these. I might if they go on sale, or if I have gift card or whatever. I might, but I probably won't be buying any of those. Probably just buy, honestly, 2 or 3 more drums and just carry them. I'll figure out probably fit that in like an SR25 kind of magazine pouch. I don't have an SR25 to compare it, but that'd be my guess. Is it feels about as wide as something like that. You can see comparison-wise to an AR magazine, significantly thicker. And let me show you an AK, AK-74 magazine. significantly wider. So you're probably going to be going for like an SR25 magazine, which would be handy if you just have a couple of these on a belt, if your field allows drums, which most fields do. It's mostly milsims that have issues with drums. But yeah, so I'll probably just pick up a couple extra of those. If I'm at a place or event that doesn't allow drums, this is a 3D printed option. Okay, holds 49 by my testing with my springs. The springs I'm working with are out of AK single stack magazines. So bear that in mind. It does come out straight, which is kind of the look I wanted, because the 9mm version of this in real life, 9x19, does have a straight magazine. Kind of like that better. So I have a bunch of these AK, I don't know the brand, they were given to me when I bought that used. They have a little star on them. Basically what I'm doing is taking the spring out behind the BB stop. Okay, the BB stop goes right there. I'll try and link the file in the description as well for these. The BB stop just slides in. I'm using the same spring from the AK magazine, no issue. And then the spring itself is from the AKs. It takes, for the standard capacity magazine AKs, it takes 1.5 springs. So you're just gonna have to play with that a bit. But having very cheap 50 round magazines in the form factor I like, can't really complain. If I print off more of these and they work, I might open this magazine up, take the spring out of it, see if that'll work without having to do two. So we'll see on that. I'll do some more testing. There will be an update video on this in the future with upgrades. I'm going to be doing a barrel upgrade, maybe a spring upgrade. We'll see. The barrel's going to be first. I'm going to be doing a TDC because the hop up isn't as stiff as I'd like, so I'm going to do a TDC on it. I'm going to do the lipo mod on it. So there's going to be quite a few things that I do to this. There will be a follow-up video on that, and I'm going to try and get some game experience with it upgraded so I can give you guys a full full and proper review on it. Like I said, I haven't actually played with this yet, but yeah. So with that being said, I recommend it if it's not your first gun, or if you're at one of the fields that I described earlier. You know, it's a cool little plinker, right? It's a cool little run and gun type gun. If you need a decent secondary, I would say strip it down. You know, no extra attachments on it. Just put it in a holster and go, right? It's not a bad option for that. But if it's going to be your primary, I can't recommend it. So with that being said, till next time, stay safe and stay hydrated.